2 Chronicles 4:1 through 6:11. He made a bronze altar 30 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 15 feet from brim to brim, perfectly round. It was 7.5 feet high and 45 feet in circumference. The likeness of oxen was below it, complete 10 every half yard, completely surrounding the reservoir. The oxen were cast in 2 rows when the reservoir was cast. It stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. The reservoir was on top of them, and all their hindquarters were toward the center. The reservoir was 3 inches thick, and its rim was fashioned like the brim of a cup or a lily blossom. It could hold 11,000 gallons. He made 10 basins for washing, and he put 5 on the right and 5 on the left. The parts of the burnt offering were rinsed in them, but the reservoir was used. He made the 10 gold lampstands according to their specifications and put them in the sanctuary, 5 on the right and 5 on the left. He made 10 tables and placed them in the sanctuary, 5 on the right and 5 on the left. Bowls. He made the courtyard of the priest and the large court and the doors for the court. He overlaid the doors with bronze. He put toward the southeast. Then Huram made the pots, the shovels, and the bowls. So Huram Solomon in God's temple, 2 pillars, the bowls and the capitals on the top of the 2 pillars, the 2 gratings for covering both bowls of the capitals that were the 400 pomegranates for the 2 gratings, 2 rows of pomegranates for each grating covering both capitals bowls on top of the pillars. He also made the water carts and the basins on the water carts, the shovels, the forks, and all their utensils. Huram-Abi made them for King Solomon for the Lord's temple. All these were made. The king had them cast in clay molds in the Jordan Valley between Succoth and Zeredah. Solomon made all these utensils in such great abundance that the weight of the Solomon also made all the equipment in God's temple, the gold altar, the tables on which to put the bread of the presence, the lampstands and their lamp in front of the inner sanctuary according to specifications, the flowers, lamps, and gold tongs of purest gold, the wick trimmers, sprinkling basins, ladles, and fire pans of purest gold, and the entryway to the temple, its inner doors to the most holy place, and the doors of the temple sanctuary of gold. Chapter 5. Solomon did for the Lord's temple was completed. Then Solomon brought the consecrated things of his father David, the silver, the gold, and all the utensils, and put them in the treasuries of God's temple. At that time Solomon assembled at Jerusalem the elders of Israel, all the tribal heads, the ancestral chiefs of the Israelites, in order to bring the ark of the covenant of the Lord up from the city of David, that is Zion. So all the men of Israel were assembled in the king's presence at the festival. This was in the 7th month. All the elders of Israel came, and the Levites picked up the ark. They brought up the ark, the tent of meeting, and the holy utensils that were in the tent. The priests and the Levites brought them up. King Solomon and the entire congregation of Israel who had gathered around him were in front of the ark, sacrificing sheep and cattle that could not be counted or numbered because there were so many. The priest brought the ark to the most holy place, beneath the wings of the cherubim. And the cherubim spread their wings over the place of the ark, so that the cherubim formed a cover above the ark and its poles. The poles were seen from the holy place in front of the inner sanctuary, but they were not seen from outside. They are there to this very day. Nothing was in the ark except the two tablets that Moses had put in it at Horeb, where the Lord had made a covenant with the Israelites when they came out of Egypt. When the priest came out of the holy place, for all the priests who were present had consecrated themselves regardless of their tour of duty, the Levitical singers of Asaph, of Heman, and of their sons and their relatives, dressed in fine linen, with cymbals, harps, and lyres, were standing east of the altar, and with them were 120 priests blowing trumpets, and singers joined together to praise and thank the Lord with one voice. They raised their voices, accompanied by trumpets, cymbals, and musical instruments. He is good. His faithful love endures forever. The Lord's temple, was filled with a cloud, and because of the cloud, the priests were not able to continue ministering for the glory. Chapter 6. Then Solomon said, "The Lord said he would dwell in thick darkness, but I have built an exalted tower." Then the king turned and blessed the entire congregation of Israel while they were standing. He said, "May the Lord God of Israel be praised." He spoke directly, fulfilled the promise by his power. He said, "Since the day I brought my people Israel out of the land of Egypt, I have not chosen a city to build a temple that my name would be there. And I have not chosen a man to be ruler over my people Israel. But I have chosen Jerusalem, so that my name will be there, people Israel. Now it was in the heart of my father David to build a temple for the name of the Lord God of Israel. However, the Lord said to my father David, 'Since temple for my name, you have done well to have this desire. Yet you are not the one to build the temple, but your son, your own offspring, will build. The Lord has fulfilled what he promised. I have taken the place of my father David, and I sit on the throne of Israel as the Lord promised. I have built the temple for the name of the Lord God of Israel, where the Lord's covenant is that he made with the Israelites." Romans 7, 1 through 13. Since I am speaking to those who understand law, brothers, law has authority over someone as long as he lives. For example, a married woman is legally bound to her husband while he lives, but if her husband the husband. So then, if she gives herself to another man while her husband is living, she will be called an adulteress. But if her husband dies, she is herself to another man, she is not an adulteress. Therefore, my brothers, you also were put to death in relation to the law through the crucified body of the Messiah, so that you, who was raised from the dead, that we may bear fruit for God. For when we were in the flesh, the sinful passions operated through the law in every death. But now we have been released from the law, since we have died to what held us, so that we may serve in the new way of the Spirit and not in the old. Then, is the law sin? Absolutely not. On the contrary, I would have not known sin if it were not for the law. For example, I would have known what it is to covet if the law had not said, "Do not covet." And sin, seizing an opportunity through the commandment, produced in me coveting from the law. Sin is dead. Once I was alive apart from the law, but when the commandment came, sin sprang to life, and I died. The commandment for me. For sin, seizing an opportunity through the commandment, deceived me, and through it killed me. So then the law is holy, and the commandment is holy, and just and good. Therefore, did what is good cause my death? Absolutely not. On the contrary, sin, in order to be recognized as sin, was producing death in me through what is good, so that through the commandment sin. Proverbs 19, 22, and 23. A man's desire should be loyalty to the covenant. Better to be a poor man than a one will sleep at night without danger.